Homeless is a big issue, actually. It's probably one of the most frequent cases I have to deal with. You know, in the last 2 weeks I've had 6 homeless cases in the last 2 weeks. Not just all from Hereford, because we work nationally. They phone head office, and because I deal a lot with homelessness, I tend to get a lot of the homelessness cases. So it is a big issue. And it's not so easy for veterans to actually ask for help and admit that they're homeless, because they don't always see themselves in that situation. It's just life. Sometimes it just happens that way. But homelessness is a big issue, because you have to try and manage expectations, because there is a shortage across the country anyway. You know, and although you're a veteran, if you're out within 5 years, you do go on the list a bit higher, etc. But there's just no properties, and as much as you try to manage expectations, it's quite difficult to do, to manage that. You know, because a lot of the times with homelessness, because there comes other issues as well. It's not just homelessness. You know, there's usually mental health attached with that.
Homelessness is never about the house, it's about everything else that means that they never got a house or they can't keep a house. So, you know, it's both incredibly simple, but it's often not particularly easy.
It's quite a high number, quite a high percentage actually of homeless veterans. But what we do here is, initially if they're street homeless, because there's different types of homelessness. If they're street homeless, we have access to funding where we can get them off the street straight away, because it's not always easy with local authorities to get them registered and housed, because they won't just house you. You have to come with, right, we want this, and this bit of information. And not all the time they have that access, because they say, right, come back next week. You think, okay, so in the meantime, what do they do in the meantime? So we're lucky in a way that we can do that. We can provide immediate accommodation, you know, in a bed and breakfast or things like that. So we can do that while we put other things in place. But sometimes you can't do that as well, because other factors that come into that, so it might not be appropriate at the time to do that. So, but we literally help everybody that walks the door, whether homeless or not.
So we were set up to rehabilitate veterans and families back into their communities, whatever that looks like for each individual. Most importantly, what we really do is make the circumstances, all those organisations fit the veteran. It is absolutely not a case of taking that individual and making them fit what is required.
So I met Dennis a couple of years ago through the Breakfast Club. He came along, and as a veteran, he was recommended from his doctor. So he came along, and we just started chatting then. And as he came more and more for breakfast, opened up more. And I heard how he lived, his story, and you know how he came to be here. And he was living in a caravan in the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere. And I just thought, oh, let's see what we can do about that, because it's not a great position to be in.
I've gone through my life, and when I say reasonably all okay, until I sort of reached about retirement age. And that's when things started to change. My partner, she had dementia, and her family down here. There was a number of things that created the situation, and what I'm saying that I was involved with one of these scams that got, let's say, my house at the time was on one of those insurance mortgages, which all crashed, I don't know, around about the 60s, 70s or something. And basically, let's say at the age of about 63, 64, they were saying, oh, you know, this won't pay off your mortgage, blah, blah, blah. You've got to double the price, double this and double that. The long and the short of that was I ended up selling up and basically paid off my bills and ended up with nothing.
He was literally on his own all the time, which is when he had a little turn as such. It was through the winter, I think about 2 years ago, which I think brought everything to a head for Dennis, you know, because he realised he was in the middle of nowhere.
I got this phobia, if you like to call it such, I can't explain it. Anyway, as I going to the doctors, they sort of diagnosed this, and then they were saying to me, well, you know, who do you know? Well, get to know people, and blah, blah, blah. Being involved with the services, being ex-servicemen, do you want to get involved with the, you know, service people? And they put me on to the Service Breakfast Club, which is organised by Lynn of the FirstLight Trust. Like, she came down and had a chat with us and that. Then obviously she mentioned the cafe in, what's the name, oh, come down that time, you know, there's always sort of place open there. That's then when I went down there, I met up with Gary, who was operating from her offices this building construction.
So there's a project going on which was just in infancy at the stage then, which is a self-build project in Leominster, where the veterans were part of a project where they could build their own, start to build their own homes, but also build themselves with, you know, they were educated, you know, we sorted out their benefits, mental health, you know, so worked as a team for about 18 months to build their homes and build kind of a future for themselves, you know. So I was lucky enough to get Dennis on that, but unfortunately because of his age he couldn't actually work on the build itself, so he was doing little projects in his little work shed on his caravan.
So I got involved in that and well, that's a change, total change, because I met lots of lads. And I mean, they were everything from about 20 upwards, like, you know, and it's me, my age, we're still, so it's almost like going back to old routines, you know, which is good, you know, brings you back to life a bit. Anyway, that's how I came to get this house, and I'll tell you, I can't hold it.
When he moved into the home, he had more people to speak with. He's become more social as well, so he actually chats with the other veterans on the build as well, you know, and he'll visit them, he'll do little odd jobs for the people on the estate as well, and he's made friends, which when he was out in the field, he did, because there's nobody around.
The physical, mental well-being affect massively the whole homelessness issue. As I said to you before, it's never about the house, it's about everything around that. And I would defy anybody who really looks at somebody who comes to you homeless to just go, it's about the unavailability of the house. It never, ever, ever is. And with all of that, you've then got the whole longitudinal piece to make sure they can stay in a home. Because it's really difficult when you suddenly have to be responsible for something. Oh my God, a lot of people can't cope. So that then feeds into the well-being.
What I've found is getting involved with, say, people like FirstLight Trust, is they don't have a system, they just have individuals, you know. And let's say if there's a guy in trouble, then he's in trouble, you know. So they'll try and bend to help that situation, you know what I mean? I mean, they didn't knock me for living in a caravan, they didn't try to stop me living in a caravan. But they did offer the help and the companionship more than anything. And strangely enough, companionship really brings that to light, you know.